How did that happen?
Welcome back to Pokken Advanced Tactics. Today I'm going to teach you how to do nothing. Specifically, I'm going to demonstrate how you can avoid or nullify certain setups and pressure by not pressing any buttons or directions. In Pokken, when your character recovers from certain states, like when getting up or after an air reset, they have a set amount of frames of invincibility before they can be hit again. As you can see, I cannot hit the opponent while they are on the ground. I have to wait until they get up completely. So if you hold R just after getting up, your opponent can't actually make contact with you until you're completely off the ground, and then you block their attack once your invincibility wears off. Now it makes sense to block as you're getting up because you don't want to get hit as soon as you become vulnerable. However, not pressing anything extends your character's invincibility frames. Pressing any input like block or jump cancels out those extra frames. This means setups perfectly timed to hit you exactly as you recover can be made to whiff if you let go of the controller instead of blocking or attacking. Let me show an example. This is a very old meaty setup that I use against certain characters. What I do is I do EX Breakbird, 6Y, and then immediately 5X. And this perfectly times the 5X so that it hits them as soon as they get up. Now on block, as you see, as soon as Shadow Mewtwo got up, he blocked the attack. However, if I set the computer to stand still, which would be like doing nothing, as they get up, then the setup whiffs. And I can even show you that it's specifically when they do nothing, because if I set them to do an attack, they get hit. So this is just proof of when your character is getting up or recovering from an air reset, if you press nothing, you gain a little bit of extra invincibility frames. Some people call this technique extended state or come up with other names, but I just call it doing nothing. There are two major applications for doing nothing. First, like I mentioned, is making meaty setups whiff. I've seen this used against Aqua Jet and some 5Xs, like Blazikens. It can even avoid certain jumping attacks with very few active frames. But I don't find this to be the most effective usage of this technique. You still have to make the read that your opponent is going to do that exact normal, because if they delay their attack slightly or do one with many active frames, you still have to hold it. Fortunately, Warner Brawl 12 champion Twixxie showed me a second and what I find to be a much more practical usage of doing nothing. Letting go of the controller while in block stun actually extends the block stun of attacks. Certain attack strings, including all homing attacks and many dual phase strings like YYs or XXs, are not true block strings, meaning they have small gaps in between them. So if you mash a button like counterattack in between the hits, you can interrupt them. The downside to this is pressing a button leaves you susceptible to being mixed up. For example, there's a gap in between the first and second hit of Gengar's homing attack. You can counter the second hit, but if they charge it, you get counter pierced. And if you just block the fully charged version, your shield gets broken. You can try to interrupt the fully charged version with your own attack, but this loses to an uncharged homing. Homing attacks are some of the most annoying mix-ups in the game, but you can nullify this mix-up by doing nothing. After I block homing 1, I can let go of the controller. If Gengar does uncharged homing, doing nothing makes this a true block string. As you can see, I can counter through this attack, but doing nothing makes it a true block string. And then after doing nothing, you can delay slightly and then do blaze kicks or whatever move you want to interrupt the fully charged homing attack. So that beats both options. I'm not sure if I would necessarily call this an option select, but whatever you call it, it is a very useful technique. This works against all homing attacks in the game, and by doing this, you should never have to worry about getting hit by uncharged or fully charged homing attacks. Okay, so I spent a few days, actually a couple hours just now, trying to perfect an exact timing so that you can block, delay and do nothing, and then backdash, or maybe, you know, jump or reflect, or somehow get away from all variants of homing attacks where someone does a homing attack, slightly charged, almost fully charged, and fully charged. I wasn't able to find a timing that would avoid all of those, but basically with what we have here, this eliminates completely uncharged and fully charged from actually being mix-ups, because you can block, delay, you'll automatically block uncharged homings, you'll block slightly charged homings, and then you can interrupt a fully charged homing. So the only thing that's really an issue is if they charge homing almost all the way. And I'm working on that right now. If I get any updates, I'll go ahead and put another follow-up video, but for now, it basically trims down the mix-up options that your opponent has off of a homing attack to basically only almost charged homing is the only thing that you have to worry about. Blocking into doing nothing has a lot of uses in dual phase as well. It can extend several strings that are not actually true block strings into true block strings. I'm sure there are a ton of uses for this, but one that I found is against Blaziken. It can help you time your anti-air against Blaze Kicks. So as you know, Blaziken can do Blaze Kicks by itself, Blaze Kicks into EX Flare Blitz, and Blaze Kicks into regular Flare Blitz. The problem is people always say, oh, you can just duck and anti-air. That doesn't really work for most characters, because the same timing that you would use to anti-air to beat Blaze Kicks and EX Flare Blitz loses to non-EX Flare Blitz. You have to wait until the third kick of Blaze Kicks has already gone over you to do your 8Y, but if you wait for that long, then you'll beat EX Flare Blitz, but you won't beat uncharged Flare Blitz. So by doing nothing after blocking, you can kind of work on the timing a little bit so that you'll always beat both versions of Flare Blitz. So I'll set the CPU right now. I'll show right now, especially with a character that can't duck, that you can't universally beat all options that Blaziken has, because Side Strike actually loses to the uncharged Blitz. And that was something that I was like, no one's gonna do that. Well, lie would dare show me otherwise, man. Anyway, but what you can do is you can just block, let go, and then you'll continue to block, and then you can press 8Y and you'll beat both versions of Flare Blitz, whether you do charged or uncharged. So I'll set them to random now. I've set the CPU to cycle randomly between just Blaze Kicks, EX Blitz, and normal Blitz, and we're gonna block, let go of the controller, and then press 8Y to help me time the anti-air properly. That beats the uncharged Blitz. Beats the EX Blitz. And then automatically, as you can see, I pressed 8Y, but since I delayed and let go of the stick, the game is automatically blocking for me. So this can be very helpful to defending against Blaziken if you don't have a universal option to beat all versions of Blaze Kicks. So that's just one of the many uses for it. So today we learned how doing nothing can extend your invincibility frames when you recover from a knockdown or an air reset. And we also learned how to extend the amount of block stun your character stays in, which can help you safely avoid homing attack mix-ups and help you defend more consistently in dual phase. Thanks for watching Pokken Advanced Tactics, and thanks again to Twixxie for helping me figure out a use for this. Later.